Hey kids, pour yourself a nice hot cup of liquid sleep and settle back and listen to this stellar episode of .NET Rocks, the internet audio talk show for .NET developers. I'm your host in New London, Connecticut, down by the beach, Carl Franklin. And as always, my partner in crime, will you please welcome Mr. Mark Dunn. How are you, Mark?
Hey, Carl, I'm doing great. How are you tonight?
You excited?
Oh, I can't contain myself.
Hey, listen, I don't know if you knew this, but we got an award. Franklin's Net got an award.
Is that right?
It wasn't for .NET Rocks either. It was for Best Training. It was a, let me grab the trophy here. This is the Windows Developer Magazine Developer's Choice Award, Best Training in 2003. What do you think of that?
Hey, I think that's pretty cool, and I hope that's the beginning of many awards.
Yeah, I hope so. I didn't really think that much of it, and then I brought it home, and Todd Fallonsby, our sales and marketing guy, glommed onto it like, oh my God, that's got to go on the website. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So we're going to be bragging about that a bit more.
Yeah, we got something to crow about.
I suppose so. How's the training world been treating you lately, Mark?
It's been treating me pretty well. I'm back down in Montgomery, Alabama, teaching a class for Auburn University's Center for Advanced Technology, so I'm always glad to come down and work with these guys.
Can anybody sign up for that class you're teaching there, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, actually anybody could come in and do this. They're a C-Tech for Microsoft, so they do take walk-ins. Most of their business is coming from the state of Alabama and from the U.S. Air Force.
Wow.
So the Air Force has a base here, Gunner Air Force Base, that's a large computing center.
Cool.
For the military.
Wow, cool.
But hey, I've got a story I've just got to share with you.
Okay.
Very funny. So I go out to have lunch with a couple of students, and one of the students is a lady, probably early 60s. So really into programming. She was jamming on the class and learning a lot of stuff. So at lunch, me and the guy are sitting there talking tech, and the girls were talking about dating because this lady's husband had recently passed away, and she was saying, how tough it was to get back into the dating world and find, a good fella. And at one point, she says, "You don't know how much I miss Dick." And when she says this, the guy is eating a taco, and he almost choked to death. So while his face is turning purple, she's telling him, "Get your mind out of the gutter. Dick was my late husband."
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so those are adventures in training.
Yeah, there is no shame. Well, Mark, some new things have been happening in the .NET world. Of course, we mentioned the Office tools on the last show. I've also seen some new stuff at the architecture site and the patterns and practices site. Remember that, listeners, you remember that show we did with Michael Stewart from the Patterns and Practices group? Well, the architectural people at Microsoft are really going full bore here, and they're constantly updating this site. If you go to msdn.microsoft.com/architecture or /practices, you can find either of those sites. Both are related, of course, and they're linked to each other. And just lots of information on great reference architectures, recommended practices, and even building blocks such as the ones we talked to Michael Stewart about.
Yeah, recently I got an email from Microsoft that was basically a link you could fill out and get a free book from the Practices and Patterns group. I don't know if that's still something that's available, but if it is, we can maybe post that link up on the site too.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah, I got that a couple of weeks ago. It's really a nice book. It goes through some fundamental things that you need to think about if you're building a .NET application.
Wow, that's great. Cool, we'll check it out. So our guest tonight has been on the show before, but not as a guest. He was a caller on Nicholas Landry's show. And, when I first met Tim, I didn't really know much about him. I saw him speak at a regional directors summit in Redmond. And I always remember because he was drinking water out of an Absolute vodka bottle, which just blew my mind. And I said, all right, this guy's kind of funny. And the more I get to know about him, the more I'm impressed. This guy has more Microsoft titles than anyone I've ever met. He's a Microsoft regional director. He sits on the Microsoft.NET Partner Architect Council. He's on the MSF Partner Advisory Board. He's on the Microsoft eBusiness Partner Advisory Council, the .NET Developers Journal Advisory Council. He's a Microsoft Gold Partner, a member of INETA. He's on the Speaker Bureau. That's the International .NET Association. Listen to last week's show. And he's also on the MSDN Content Council and the founder of the San Diego .NET Users Group. And on top of that, he's the founder and CEO of his own company, Internology. Will you please welcome Mr. Tim Huckaby?
Wow, that's quite an introduction. Good to talk to you tonight.
That's quite a mouthful of qualifications you got there, Tim.
I used to put that in my email signature, and I got mocked so severely that I had to pull it out.
Wow. So what have you been up to?
Oh, same old stuff. I live a dual-pronged life, which is very fun. I'm the Microsoft Regional Director program, which you guys cover pretty well, and you've had some RDs on the show. And
yeah.
You had my boss, or our boss.
That's right.
Carl, on the show last week.
2 weeks ago.
And then
yeah.
I run this company, Internology. Actually, it runs me, which is equally as fun.
You do a lot of keynotes and presentations at conferences like Tech Ed and the PDC, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah,
yes.
that's a really fun part of my job. The public speaking thing I just kind of fell into a long time ago with Dev Days and
right.
And I've been on a few keynotes in my time, and I've spent a little bit of time with some pretty famous Microsoft executives.
But you're also though, I mean, make no mistake, you're also a just absolutely brilliant developer. And you and John Rauschenberger went head to head a couple of years ago at Tech Ed. The Iron Developer.
Ironically, Carl, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
Because there was a time in my career where I thought I was a pretty good software engineer.
Oh, come on.
Then I got to meet all you guys.
Oh, come on.
Story of my career, ironically, is every time I tried to be a software developer, I always got pushed into the dev lead position.
Yeah.
And you guys know how that goes.
Yep.
Right. The dev lead ends up either building the test tools or building some other tool that gets the darn thing into production.
Right.
And honestly, I was always a better program manager than I was a dev lead.
Yeah.
Well, that's an
Nowadays,
important
I
role.
have such brilliant people that work for me. I mean, I'm literally honored to work with some of these engineers. They're just industry leaders, and the stuff they do is amazing. Of course,
wow.
.NET, helps dramatically, but
right.
I guess the point is, the older I got, unfortunately, and this is a common story, the farther I got from doing the really fun stuff. In fact, my own people, I say this all the time, like how jealous I am of the type of projects they work on.
Yeah. The
type of stuff I do nowadays, 3 a.m., build a demo for a session.
Yeah. Right.
That's at least in the last 6 months, that's definitely been me.
Well, it's about time we got you on the show. We've been trying to get you on for a while, and I guess
that's not totally my fault, gentlemen.
No, it's true.
You guys are as busy as me, and now you're famous, and you have this hundreds of thousands of people in this cult following.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we might be infamous. I'm not sure about famous.
Oh, let me tell you, you guys are famous. And I knew you were going to be famous from the very first show, and that was Pat Hines, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Pat Hines is, talk about brilliant technologist.
Yeah.
The man is amazing.
King of analogies.
I actually saw him speak at Tech Ed. Here's a story of my life. I did more sessions at Tech Ed than I went to. One of the ones I went to was Pat Hines and Carlos Guevara. And these guys had me, I was slayed. I was laughing so hard, and I was so entertained. And these guys were so good. Just did a fantastic presentation, basically on upgrading from VB to VB.NET.
I love Pat's analogies. Pat's got the best analogies of anybody in the industry.
Well, he's so damn smart, and he's so good on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy. Great guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so anyways, I travel a bit, and I've been trying. Ultimately, I got told by the authority in Redmond, Washington, that I need to get my act together and do your show. So
Really?
here I am.
Wow.
And I'm happy and honored to be able to do it.
It's great to have you here.
Tim, need I say it? I'm very excited that you're on the show tonight.
And vice versa, Mark.
Hey, and that doesn't happen often.
It's hard to get Mark excited. Well, I tell you what, I listened to the recent episode with my boss, Eileen Crane,
Right.
and Jazz and Thomas. And
Yep.
I tell you, my favorite part is the cheesy commercials you do, Carl. I want to come to New London, Connecticut, wherever the hell that is.
Yeah, that's right.
And I want to have lunch with you.
That's a good thing.
In fact, can we advertise? Can Internology advertise on .NET Rocks? And why would anybody want to tour a nuclear submarine?
Absolutely, I have no idea.
You'll want to come for the hot lobster roll.
Yeah, you got to come for the lobster rolls and the barbecued ribs. I mean,
and how do you watch movies on the beach?
They set up a freaking movie theater on the beach, and when the sun goes down, they show a movie.
Uh-huh. That's illegal here. We're not allowed to have fun on our beaches like that.
Yeah, it's you know what's cool about it is that it's not very popular, and so it's like it was popular in the '60s and the '70s, and of course in the probably its heyday in the Roaring '20s maybe with the boardwalk and all that. But it really fell out of popularity, Ocean Beach, in the '80s. But now recently, some people have been rediscovering it, but it's not very crowded. So it's like this huge, beautiful beach, and not a lot of people go there.
So when do I get to come out? Do you have a hotel? Do you have indoor plumbing?
Got a basement. No, we have some nice hotels here. Actually, we put people up at the Lighthouse Inn, which is right in New London. It's an old Victorian mansion. They've put millions of dollars worth of renovation in it. They have T1 in every room. It's great. You get an antique bed and T1, with a canopy. And
Well, I want to do the VB.net master class, and I want to have lunch with you, Carl.
Geez, talk about cheesy commercials. This whole show is going to be a commercial. We keep this up.
Right. Well, hey, Tim, the secret is to stay in Carl's basement while you're there. He has a movie theater down there. Yes, and a very comfortable couch.
Really? Yeah. Tim Landgrave, the RD from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has the same thing. In fact, he has quite the setup.
As we learned from Chris Sell's show, he spent about $5,000 on his home theater system unwittingly. It was like, you got to have this, and if you have this, you got to have that, and if you have that, you got to have the other thing. And before he knew it, he was spending all sorts of money just to be able to watch The Matrix on DVD.
That's right. It was like an audiovisual crack addict. He got hooked and just, it couldn't stop.
Well, the theme song of .NET Rocks is Toy Boy, and, to some extent, there's a little bit of truth in that.
Yeah, we're all toy boys to an extent, no doubt.
So now, speaking of celebrities, you have been called the J-Lo of technology. What's that all about?
Yeah.
And do you really want to call yourself the J-Lo?
I think that, first I got to say, and I talked to a pretty high-up person at Microsoft today, and she apologized about the moniker that I've got. And I said, oh, my God, I think that is so funny. So my buddy Seth Ginsberg from Razorfish actually named me that the other day because I was at the Partner Advisory Council in Redmond, and the VP that owns the partner community, his name is Ralph Young. He's a great guy. Anyways, he flew a slide on the stage of me and Paul Flessner in the keynote at TechEd. And Seth turned to me, essentially said, or I said to him, I know, I'm officially overexposed. I'm the Rosie O'Donnell, or no, I'm the Roseanne Barr of technology. He said, nope, you're J-Lo. And other people heard it, and now it's stuck.
That's too bad.
So the real irony is, I can't pretend to know anything really about branding or brand identity or anything like that, but Internology has such brand identity now, it shocks me. Like your show. I mean, you're shocked by the people this touches, right? I am shocked at people who know what Internology is.
So how did that all come about, and what do you guys do?
The Internology thing?
Yeah.
It's a relatively interesting story because I was working at a Microsoft partner, a fairly large one, and at the time Oh man, I was working hard. I was dev leading numerous projects, and they were all successes. And I was making this company a ton of money. But man, they were unethical, and it didn't sit well for me. In fact, I had a boss once at this company who said, and told me and my team, if you were thinking about this client over the weekend, I want you to bill an hour.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
when I knew I had to get out.
It's
So,
like a law firm.
oh God, it was awful. I mean, it makes my back hurt just thinking about it.
Wow.
So anyways, I was essentially running the software engineering side of the house on the Microsoft side. Of course, we only had a Microsoft side, so.
Right.
And then my buddy Dave Lynn, who is now the Western Regional Manager of MCS, he was running sales at this company, and we used to, consume a couple liquid beverages, malted beverages, and we'd bitch and complain. And can I say bitch and complain on your show?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we'd bitch and complain about, God, we hate this place, and we would do it so much differently, and boy, if we had the chance, well, sometimes in life you get what you ask for, and you have no idea what the you're going to do when you get it. I'm going to edit that, right? So we stumbled into a tiny bit of money on a personal friend of mine who was actually upset that I had not asked him for money, because he's fairly well-to-do. In fact, he's extremely wealthy. And it doesn't take a lot of money to start a service business. So I got the money, and Dave and I said, holy shit, now what are we going to do? We got to start this company. And that was in September of 99, the end of September of 99. So we took 3 months fully billable at Pacific Life, which is still a great client of ours, the whale company.
Yeah. Right.
And we got our act together, and we got all the right people involved. In fact, if anything I learned from the RD program and from life in general is if you surround yourself with people who know what they're doing, you generally succeed, right?
I mean, our
So show is a
testament to that.
So
we don't know what the hell we're doing. We just talk to people who do.
well, I'm on the coattails, man. So
yeah, right.
So it took us 3 months to get the our act together so we could start hiring. Of course, at this time, everyone was telling Dave and I, you're insane to start a company. You're going to ruin yourselves.
What year was this?
That was September of 99.
Oh, yeah.
So we started hiring in 2000.
Right before the boom.
Yeah. And because, I've been in, and everyone told us you're never going to be able to hire anybody. There's no way. So because I've been in this business for so long in the San Diego area, I mean, people started coming out of the woodwork, and we got really lucky and made 10 just crucial hires on very, very talented engineers that still work at the company and have a blast, too. The fun thing about Internology is pretty much everyone loves the job because we're so bleeding edge, cutting edge. It's a fun place to work. So, we went through the boom time. We had some nice big Fortune 500s and just as many little ones. Then the economy turned and, we looked each other in the eyes and said, man, this isn't about technology. This sucks. And thank God we have some big companies that carried us through, one of which, of course, is Microsoft. We do a ton of work for corporate, for Redmond directly.
Cool.
We work in their product teams. In fact, I'm probably not supposed to say this, but we actually build some of Microsoft's products in Carlsbad, California.
Cool.
Wow.
So we do product team work. We also, all the way to bleeding, cutting-edge prototypes on technologies that won't ship for years. Oh, goodness, we do official curriculum development.
Wow. And you're expanding,
right? A lot of pilots, a lot of we're doing their line of business applications. We're all over that place. They're a great client, and they're a very difficult client.
Very cool.
Huge company.
So, Tim, do you actually work on product teams at Microsoft?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Internology does, and I have. Is that your question?
Yeah. Have you
kind
worked
of the
on
way
product
Redmond is a different place, as you guys know, and maybe the audience hasn't really got a gist of that. But It's like no Fortune 500 I have ever worked on. And I actually worked in a product team, and that was I worked on Olympus, which is site server. Me and 2,500 other people. I was dev lead in an architecture team.
Wow.
Cool.
Oh yeah, it was an eye-opening experience. Man, if we had beers, guys, I could tell you stories that would make your head turn.
Yeah,
Redmond is
awesome.
a different place. It can be combative. It can be confrontational. It can also be very, very efficient. And you get to work with some of the most brilliant people in the world. And that's really where I learned about how Microsoft works, and proved to myself, which at the time I had some doubt that I could, if I can survive in a product team at Microsoft, and really I had to come in and save the day, which worked out, then I can do anything. So that's kind of my story on life. I have a
Very
little bit
cool.
of confidence. Except for professional athletics, I never really could crack that.
Where did you get the idea to start drinking water from an Absolute bottle?
Well, that all these things have stories behind them, and you guys know because I know you, and I'm a storyteller. So that was a private audience, and that actually had some implications.
Okay.
So when you do a private audience, and this was all Microsoft regional directors, other partners, and tons of Microsoft people. There's probably, 300 people in the room.
There was a lot of people there.
And they asked me to do the keynote because this was an internal keynote, which is much different,
Yes.
much looser, a lot of NDA, that type of stuff. They asked me to do the keynote, the Microsoft folks, because in the prior year, the speaker just got lambasted, just was basically in tears when it was done. So it was my job to liven up the crowd, keep it funny, but keep it relevant.
Right.
Don't get off topic, which happened last year, because some of these RDs, are seriously
They're brutal.
famous engineers. They know it. They know more than anybody around.
Right.
And
You
and
can't
they let
argue.
you know it, right?
Yeah, you can't argue with them.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll never win an argument, right or wrong, with some of these guys. So anyways, I had, God, who was on stage with me?
Well, Ilya was there. He took a lot of heat.
Yeah, Ilya was there, but who was on stage with me? It was Graham Clark
Oh, right.
from England.
Yep.
And Graham is very matter of fact, another brilliant software engineer. So, I'm the light guy, and Graham's the heavy in this deal. So I thought, what the heck? I'm going to get a bottle of booze up here because our demos are so fragile that you breathe on the machine and it GPSs, right?
Yeah.
we're demoing just bleeding edge.
Remember,
stuff.
at that point, we didn't have. I don't even think we had beta. Maybe we were in beta 1. Maybe. No, it wasn't. It wasn't even
I
beta
think this
1.
is before .NET, isn't it?
Was this the alpha of .NET?
Now I can't remember.
Oh, man, and the whole thing, these last 5 years are a blur for me. I've done so many presentations.
I think it was about .NET, but I don't know as if there was any code. Hey, we'll get back to this great story in a second, but now it's time for a cheesy commercial, and this is Tim Huckaby. I have my voice surgically altered to sound like Carl Franklin, so pay no attention to that. Anyway, we have our fall schedule for the VBNet Masterclass up on the website. September 22nd to 26th, October 20 to 24th, November 17 to 21, and December 8 to 12. We're doing one a month in the fall. And don't forget, our July and August classes, July 7th to 11th, and August 4 through 8, we're offering a 2-for-1 special. If you're interested in taking the class and you want to get double your money's worth, get a friend and come on down to New London, Connecticut for the VBNet Masterclass. This isn't hype. This is real stuff. All of my customers are very happy. I can show you tons and tons of eval forms that have all 10s and great comments. And these people have gone on to do really good work in the real world, not just in their heads or twiddling away doing academic exercises, but real code. All right, so now let's get back to this incredible story. Right here on .NET Rocks. Don't you go away.
Well,
I can't
I
remember.
can remember a BizTalk 1.0 alpha beta just going south, and Graham was literally dripping in sweat. He had gone ashen, and it started, his voice dropped. So,
Oh, dear.
Don't get me wrong, I love Graham, but there's nothing. You guys go on stage, right? There's nothing worse than a demo failing on stage,
Yeah.
and you not knowing what the hell to do.
They used to give away
that's
free
why I
T-shirts.
jumped in with the booze.
Right.
Of course, it wasn't booze; it was, water.
But the key is that you didn't tell anybody.
Right.
Yeah, so that's actually the funny part. Well, a few people knew. I told Graham because I was going to, I before the thing went
Right.
on, so because I thought he was going to faint. I was afraid he was going to faint. So I started, every time something went bad, I, took a giant gulp.
Like a pint and a half.
Well, whatever
time.
it was. Was it Absolute?
I don't
It was
know.
Absolute or Scotch or whatever it was.
It was
so
a
I took
fifth
this giant
bottle, and you were
gulp.
swigging cups at a time. I mean,
So all I could hear was in the front, I could hear Elia going, "Oh my God! Please stop! No! You're gonna kill yourself!" So some of these guys I had totally fooled. Of course, the guys that knew me, the guys and gals that knew me, are, there's no way anyone can drink like that. So they're just laughing. So that kind of kept us on track, right? So while I was screwing around, Graham was fixing the demos.
right.
There's actually an unfortunate part of this story. So all the brand new RDs, do you know this part, guys?
No, I
No.
Oh, this is beautiful. So, and I can't name a name to embarrass the poor guy because he's now a Blue Badge. I'm sorry, a Blue Badge is a Microsoft employee.
Oh, okay.
There's a grouping of brand new RDs in the crowd, and this particular one thought, this is part of the curriculum for the RD keynote. And I think it would be a great idea if I went and did this in public in my own district.
Oh, man.
Yeah, total disaster.
Yeah, not good.
Because in an internal audience, you can do stuff like that.
Right.
But you're going to offend somebody
Yeah.
in an audience. So, yeah, that's the bad news to the story. So that I have to relive constantly.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
See what happens when you try to have a little fun.
There you go. And you know me, it's all about fun.
Yeah, it is. So when you were in Redmond, you applied what you learned there, and to your exploits.
So I commuted. That's the funny thing about me and Microsoft. Have you noticed anyone from Microsoft starts their sentences with the word "so"?
They do. They all start with "so."
So beat me
So
when I start a
answer
sentence
is
with "so." So I commuted to Redmond, Washington, actually from San Diego. My lovely wife of 14 years and I made a huge sacrifice. We had small kids at the time, but this was one of those make or break career things, and I had to go as a save the project type thing for a guy that just got eaten alive in Redmond and just had enough. He wanted to come home.
okay.
So I went and took over, but I had basically 32 hours a weekend home, and I commuted by airplane to Redmond, Washington, in 6 months and get it on track. Well, 2 months get it on track. 6 months later is when we shipped the product, and I finally came home. And like I said, I learned everything in Redmond. Everything about life, about shipping software, about the way Microsoft works. I just learned so much and was so honored to work with some of the smartest people I had ever met. So I came back, and for this company I mentioned prior, Dev led numerous site server commerce gigs, like Cooking.com comes to mind, Mobile Planet, some internet sites that are still running on that back end, or on that, do we call that a platform? I mean,
No,
to
I
show
don't
you
think
how
we call
old
it a
I
platform
am,
anymore.
site server is mothballed.
Yeah,
Mothballing
I know.
at Microsoft means it's no longer supported. It's dead.
Dead.
Right. So I came back, worked numerous projects, did well, and then fell into the internology thing.
So you sort of play both sides of the fence, right? You have expertise on the developer and networking sides of technology.
Right. That's it. Not many people know that, especially in the RD community. Ironically, the writing I do, and I've been writing for a long time, and I like that too, although I don't think I'm that good at it, and it's still very hard for me. But the writing I do nowadays is mostly on the infrastructure side. So, for instance, for Windows and .NET Magazine, which is the Windows magazine on the infrastructure side, I mean, they literally have no competition. And you guys wouldn't know this because you're app dev guys, but I'm writing on, volume shadow copy and the VDS, the disk service, and some other Windows 2003 type stuff.
Tim, you're a big Active Directory fan, aren't you?
Right. And that plays into the Tim wants to be a network guy but isn't really a network guy type of thing. I learned about directory services at Microsoft in Site Server. That was one of the things I owned, the membership directory service, and I've been fascinated by them ever since. It's funny that now they are so popular with Active Directory, and that some of the best sessions I do, or at least the ones that I have the most fun on, are like Active Directory enabling your applications, and seeing SQL-type people, their eyes open up when you contrast the difference between directory services and databases and where they play. In fact, Carl, I do that for your conference.
That's right, Dev Connections.
That particular session, man, that goes really well.
Yeah.
I get so many positive feedbacks. I still email back and forth with the people in the audience at the Connections conference.
Yeah, I saw your evals. They were great.
You see, I didn't even see my evals. I assumed it went great because I had a number of Novell employees in the audience.
Hey, you know that that last show in New Orleans, they had more attendees there than at VS Live in Chicago.
You know, that's not surprising, and it says a lot for, the Connections people. And you, honestly, that the speakers and the content is fantastic, although you guys make it pretty painful on us to get our act together. But I love doing that conference. I will always do that conference.
Now we're doing all the developer sessions. The demos are going to be in both VB and C#.
Which is a great idea. I think that was kind of funny when you sent that email.
It was almost apologetic, wasn't it?
It was pathetic.
Yeah.
Like, please, just demand it. No skin off my back.
Right? Yeah.
And in fact, that's a great idea.
It is a good idea.
What a great way to learn,
Frankly, I was expecting a little more resistance than I got, but everybody was happy to oblige, which was good. Hey, of course you're into .NET. What are some of the technologies in .NET that really excite you the most now?
So this particular minute, there I went again. I started a sentence with so. See, a lot of people think that I'm more Microsoft than an actual Microsoft employee. So, we talked about the Active Directory thing, which I'll always be passionate about. Until we truly Active Directory enable our applications, get all the benefits of it, I will not stop doing those sessions and writing that code and writing those articles. But recently, let's see, how do I put this together? It's a story. So the Microsoft Norway people contacted me and said, we're doing our European launch, the launch of Visual Studio and Windows. Will you come out and do kind of a developer keynote? And I'd never been to Norway and Oslo.
Yeah.
And and I said, absolutely, in a heartbeat. I mean, look at the calendar. So I got it on there. And they said, by the way, we want you to do a Smart Clients presentation and work that into your keynote, like the next generation of application development. So I said, sure, absolutely, I'll do that. And I got off the phone and I went back to my people and I said, what the hell's a Smart Client? because the three of us have been doing, and the world has been doing web applications for so long that we're jaded to it. Right? Every time I sit in an architectural meeting, we're on the whiteboard, at least for the last 6 months, we don't even consider anything else.
We accept it as the reality that we have to deal with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always, it's web this and it's web service that, and, what browser compliancy do we need, and blah, 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 blah. Well, .NET, at least Everett, we can't call it Everett, Visual Studio 2003, Visual Studio .NET 2003, changed that because of some of the deployment models, right? So now it's realistic to deploy applications, Windows applications, and in my study of what the hell is a smart client, I can tell you that in Microsoft's definition, what I learned is that a smart client that is anything that is not a web client.
Okay.
Okay, and that can be argued, and it is argued for hours.
In other words, the web is not smart.
well, the web truly isn't smart. TCP/IP is a disconnected protocol that's unsecure, and we could go forever on why TCP/IP is so broken, but we're stuck with it. We could also talk about why we're stuck with HTML, which I absolutely abhor and refuse to learn. So, let's see. Let me name some smart clients to put it in perspective.
Okay.
Compact Framework, for instance, which is basically running a Windows Forms app on a Pocket PC or a Pocket PC telephone. Another smart client, of course, would just be a Windows form, right? And as Jazz said the other night, a Windows application. I don't know if I'd call it that, but Windows Forms app built on .NET.
Yeah, you should have seen some of the email we got after
I
that
bet.
interview.
Yeah, I need to talk. And Jazz is a great guy. Don't get me wrong.
Well, it wasn't just Jazz. I mean, just a whole...
I think we got people... When you guys steered into, what is .NET, I think you got lost in about 20 minutes of confusion.
Yeah. Well,
you
people
need to
are
redo that show.
20 minutes of confusion is nothing. I mean, we're gonna be confused about this for a long time to come, I think.
Exactly. So, let's see. The new form client in Office 2003 that's so poorly named, it is called InfoPath, is a smart client. Which is really cool technology if you guys haven't looked at it.
I haven't
seen it.
Really
a very neat way to enable the masses.
What's the technology called?
InfoPath.
InfoPath technology?
It's in Office 11.
Okay.
Which will eventually ship as Office 2003.
Right.
It is a way for, a power user to create form-based applications and talk to web services or remoting or other objects out there.
A power user being like an Office person who had done VBA before or something.
Yeah, very cool technology.
Is this like a replacement for VBA?
No, this is different. I'm getting to that, Mark.
Okay.
This is, we ship a internal web service, say, or maybe a remoting object, and we say to our power users, this guy returns, it has 4 public methods, one for add, one for update, one for search, and, whatever else. Here's the WSDL. You send it out in an email and you say, you InfoPath people, party on. And in Office, they build, like add, edit, lookup forms on top of this thing.
I see.
And they get the full functionality. It's very,
so
very
like right
cool.
in a spreadsheet or something, it can press a button and a form will pop up?
I haven't got to that technology yet.
Okay.
This is totally different. This is
just delivering an application using Office as the framework.
No, this has nothing to do with Office.
Oh, really?
I'm getting to the Office one.
I'm sorry.
This is standalone form
else.
generation things that empower the masses.
Okay.
Who knows where it's going to go? It takes a certain type of programmer/power user to use, but it's cool. And it's a smart client. The smart client that I am enamored with, and I'll tell you why, and that's what we've been steering into, and that's Visual Studio.NET tools for Office 2003.
Yeah, we mentioned that on the last show.
Right. And I could talk for hours about why this technology is cool and why .NET developers are going to hop all over this. So some key points. This is managed code, right? You don't. It's not like programming with your arm tied behind your back, which is VBA.
Absolutely.
Yep. So the other very cool thing. Well, okay, we should go positive and minus. What's the minus? Word and Excel only in this version. This is beta only. So this will eventually ship. But when it does ship in the next few months, or I guess the end of the year is when they're predicting Office will ship. Who knows? It's Word and Excel only, and I think that's unfortunate because so much of the world wants to do Outlook-type applications, and even PowerPoint to some extent. But in this generation of the product, it's Word and Excel only.
Okay.
You get all the security benefits of like code access security and deployment.
Wow.
So essentially, here's the scenario. I can write, and I did on an airplane, I can write 75 lines of code that goes out to SQL, grabs, and this is managed code, grabs a bunch of data in a web service. I create a pivot table in Excel and all these fancy charts and blah, blah, blah. I compile this thing, and what happens is, like in the Excel spreadsheet model, there's a property on the Excel spreadsheet which ties it to a .NET assembly. Okay, makes sense?
Yep, okay. Sure.
So literally, you drop this assembly, or you deploy this assembly with its security. So say maybe the SQL I'm pulling back is an income statement or something that has sensitive information. I drop this assembly out there. I do my security thing, and then I email the entire company this spreadsheet. All right, and what does that mean? That means the people who can see the data can open the spreadsheet, right? But
sure.
More importantly, every time they open the spreadsheet, it runs the assembly, meaning there's nothing static about this Excel spreadsheet. It's completely dynamic.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah, that's totally cool and a very compelling story.
Wow.
We're not going to do this for this isn't the way of the future. Every .NET application is not going to be surfaced in Excel. But you can see some definite places, especially in the office information worker type power user scenario, where this is a beautiful thing. And you know what? And I don't have to dink with HTML. I don't have to dink with user interfaces. In fact, another Tim weakness is I didn't get that UI gene. I'm horrible on the UI side. I'm more of a tools type programmer.
Hang out with Alan Cooper for a while.
Okay.
Hey, I got to ask you a question, and I know Mark has a question too. He's chomping at the bit, but
yeah, I got a bunch.
So let me just ask this one real quick. What's the outlook for the future of the VBA programmer as we know them today? Are they just like out of work, out of luck?
How many VBA programmers do you know, honestly?
Okay.
Some of the most brilliant VBA I've ever stared at, and VBA gets complex. I mean, you are so handicapped when you use that stuff. But some of the best stuff I've ever seen are done by .NET software engineers. For instance, Bill Sheldon, I don't know if you know the name, but he's going to be famous one day. He wrote a VBA app that goes out and uses ADSI to basically gather all the permissions of a IAS box and then displays them in a nice little spreadsheet, and I think he put a pivot table in there, something like that. The point is that took hundreds of lines of code.
Okay, let me phrase the question another way.
So there's lots of... answer it flat out. The VBA programmer will not exist. There'll be no reason for VBA.
They're out in the marketplace. There's a lot of unemployed VBA programmers or access programmers. Maybe is a better way to look at these guys.
.NET. The answer is .NET.
I know that. I know that. But a lot of these guys, I've had them come into my master class unknowingly, thinking that they would survive, and they leave on the third day. They're just, they can't keep up. They don't get VB. That they're access programmers. And they don't even know what a data type is. You know what I mean? They're all in variant land.
I see where you're going, but I don't.
So what's the future look like for these guys? Is it basically learn how to be a programmer or do something else?
Well, let's not get into stereotyping a specific type of VBA program.
Okay, all right. Let me ask another. Wait. So these people are okay. Let's say that these people exist, and I know they do. There's a whole bunch of them that are still going to be writing code on Access databases, and you know what I'm saying? If they don't step up, they're going to still do stuff in old VBA.
I know what you're saying, so let me answer it kind of politically.
All right.
How about that?
Sure.
That's not what you want. You want me to flat out hammer these guys. But let me answer it politically.
Okay.
There are, and we can certainly see this in the projects we do, and that's all three of us. There are different levels of software engineers, even in the RD community. There's different levels of engineers. There's plumbing people, there's platform people, there's application programmer type people at the top. Nothing replaces architecture. The only place you learn architecture is either in the trenches doing real projects, right? Or you're formally trained in school. I think the type of person you're talking about, the guys and gals, these VBA programmers you're talking about, probably are not formally trained in writing code in school.
Right.
Ironically, I'm finding, and you guys can feel free to disagree with me, but I'm finding some of the best .NET software architects came from the J2 side, came from the Java side.
Because they know the stuff.
They're formally trained.
They know the patterns, etc.
And they never go back, right? In fact, half my company are expert Java people, but they just don't do it anymore by choice.
Yeah.
They're just so enamored with .NET, right?
Right.
It's so much easier. We get it done so much faster. So much of the plumbing's done for us for free. You don't have to be a Win32 expert anymore, and those people are few and far between. The type of person I think you're talking about, they may stay in VBA, but the jobs are going to get smaller and smaller because we can get so much more done, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, I think if they have a logical mind and they're creative, then, what you mentioned, Carl, they were simply in the wrong class. They need to go to a fundamentals class, an intro class, because you can learn programming, you can learn object-oriented development. And, they're going to have to step up to the plate.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with you.
And Carl, just think about the type of data structures they've been used to dealing with. I mean, they probably have no idea who COD was. Or
they didn't even know what data structures are. I mean,
They don't think COD's a fish.
Which it is, from your part of the world.
Oh.
Atlanta? Oh, okay.
So to them, a data structure is, rows and columns.
Right.
Oh, here's another interesting point about why I'm so enamored with the Visual Studio.NET tools for Office. I am not an Excel power user. If you ask me to create a pivot table in Excel, I would fail. I don't know how to do that. But I can create it in 4 lines in .NET. That is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive. I can't wait to see some of these tools. I haven't looked at them yet.
Mark, send me a note, and I will send you this demo. It is the one I built on the airplane. It is so cool.
Well, when you were talking about that, it sounds like, this is beautiful for management reports because you're removing a UI and you're making a smart document that can update itself when you open it.
Right. And these guys, if they want to party on it, and change things around and do whatever these guys do to pivot tables and save it off, they can do that. But then they run the original version again and it pulls all new fresh data. I just love the scenario.
That's very, very sweet.
Well, Tim, before we run out of time, I've got some questions I want to ask you. I was out looking at your site. You guys do some pretty cutting-edge stuff. And I noticed you do things with BizTalk, you do things with smart clients. What other, technologies are you getting into with Internology?
Well, I'm really proud about some of the stuff these guys do. Unfortunately, I can't come out and say some of the stuff we've written for Microsoft because, for obvious reasons. But let me just think and talk and think out of my head of the type of things we're doing now. We have an enormous .NET or Compact Framework application, suite of applications that we're building for Cintas, which is the uniform company, the trucks you see driving around.
Yeah.
They're going to arm 10,000 trucks with Pocket PCs, and they're going to run their entire business from the field in Compact Framework, which is a great story. Very cool company.
Yeah.
Fortune 500, I think they're Fortune 1000 in Cincinnati. Some other stuff that that is just so bleeding cutting edge, and it kind of speaks to the level of engineer that we have at Internology, is there's a company called Terrari, which is an Intel spin-off. And I'm almost positive this is all public, so we can talk about this. But they have patented a technology that essentially allows the developer, the .NET developer, to pick a piece of code that he or she knows is latent, is slow, and just doesn't perform in .NET, and drop it down to the silicon level so it literally runs on a board at 10x to 1000x the speed.
Holy cow.
Oh
it's
my
amazing.
God. That's
It
insane.
is amazing. Think about in Visual Studio, and we're doing this for the VSIP program for Microsoft, right? So think about this snap-in in Visual Studio. You just pick some code, you drag it over to this control, and boom, it's running in hardware.
Oh, that's insane.
But think it through even farther. So if you could do that, why not pick the parts of the framework? And frankly, why not pick the parts of Windows itself and drop it down into the board?
Hardware Windows.
So what's slow in Windows?
I love it.
XML parsing.
Yeah.
So say we take the entire MS XML and drop it to the board. Well, guess what? We're doing it. We've done it. Working very closely with Microsoft to do this type of stuff. And there's some other things and some other products like BizTalk that are pretty slow because of the amount of stuff they're crunching. It's like the math coprocessor type of concept. Remember when you got that and Excel suddenly ran faster?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that type of concept, but manifesting it at the .NET developer level.
Yeah.
And you called it Terrari?
So the name of the company is Terrari. Check them out. They are just amazing people, and we're writing their plumbing for them. So the first, and we're writing their Visual Studio integration. So the first project we're doing this for is National Broadband. They are going to be, within the next 12 months, you will know this name. They're like the Walmart of broadband internet. Now, they do it wired, but they also have this giant wireless network, and they're going to broadcast Wi-Fi into the entire North American continent. Like, so you can't you're in Wyoming, in a place that just doesn't have internet access, right? And they're going to broadcast this high bandwidth signal into places like Wyoming, right? And guess what? The new Windows client in the operating systems that may be coming very soon will automatically pick up these clients and automatically connect to them, right? So here's the cool thing about National Broadband. They have this enormous network, fiber network all around the country, and then these wireless data centers and such. So we're front-ending these Linux farms. Get this. We're front-ending Linux farms with Windows Server 2003 running a combination of .NET code and a little bit of C because of the type of the devices we have to talk to. Right?
Okay.
You with me?
Yeah.
And we are touching every bit that goes through there. We are the content processor. So we do the virus check in there, and we also can do things like sniff the content for adult stuff or child pornography and stuff like that. Right? We can eliminate that at the plumbing level.
Wow.
So you as the consumer in Wyoming, you say, you know what, I don't want any adult content. I don't want it in my email. I don't want it in my browser. I don't want it. They're going to be able to do that because of the type of technology we're doing on the Terrari boards, right? We pull this stuff down, we crunch it at the board level.
Wow, that's great.
And deliver it out there. The ironically funny thing is, Windows is so fast, .NET is so fast, and the code is so efficient that we are literally pre-processing this Linux farm where you could never do this in Linux. Not in a million years. It would bog that network down.
Wow.
It's a very cool story.
I just had, when you said that, I had thoughts of a program that I was writing in Managed Code that has having trouble keeping up with some hardware. Yeah. I'm doing some MIDI programming.
That sounds just like you, Carl.
Yeah, and
the musician that you are.
Yeah. So I'm writing some code to do routing on the fly. Yeah, exactly.
In the plumbing.
No, I get it.
Send me a note. I'll get you hooked up.
Very cool.
You may have to write your own
you rock.
Agent.
That's okay.
Right? We may have to make you write the agent that does.
I could definitely contribute.
Okay, it's beautiful. And then you have a product.
Yeah.
And Franklin's.net will be a product company.
Yeah, and now
for the music industry.
Now I have to spend less time training and more time trying to convince people to buy my product. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you think you've heard cheesy commercials now? Just wait till you hear those.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't resist the cheesy commercial thing.
That's all right. They are pretty cheesy. We actually are sort of rethinking cheesy commercials, and I don't know.
You got to mix Mark in there.
Yeah. Well,
let me do one of your commercials.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Tim for Carl Franklin's company.
I'll put the Southern touch on them.
That's right.
Tim, you mentioned that you had done a lot of public speaking. How did you break into doing that for Microsoft?
Well, like most of my life, Mark, I kind of fell bass-ackwards into it. It was at Dev Days in It was a Visual Studio 6 Dev Days. What was that, Carl?
Oh,
99?
99, yeah.
99, 2000.
My favorite poker game.
I was elected as the Microsoft Regional Director. I had no idea what it was at the time, and I had no idea how great it would be for my career at the time. And the thought of getting up in front of, at the time, I guess it was 1,000 people. We have pretty active developer community here. It was pretty terrifying. I'd never done anything like that. So, man, I studied the hell out of this thing. Oh, I bet I spent 6 weeks, and I had that presentation so baked and so contrived that there was no way I could fail, right?
Right.
Nowadays, you know how it goes,
Yeah.
right? Nowadays, it depends on what you're doing that week, on how
Depends which way the wind's
much
blowing.
preparation, how many demos you can build on an airplane. So, in any event, that went really, really well. And then, it has to do with the site server thing. So we shipped site server just about the same time, and that entire product team went straight into, half of them split off and went to Tahoe, into SharePoint. The other half went to Commerce Server, the first version of Commerce Server. What was that, Commerce Server 2000? And they
don't
had
know.
no one to speak at TechEd 99. And, that's like the Super Bowl of speaking, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
TechEd is like the Super Bowl.
Big party.
So here's this little, software guy from San Diego, and someone from the product team said, well, remember that guy from San Diego? He ran in the architecture team, and this and that happened. So I got a call. I can't even remember the guy's name who owned the content at the time. He said, do you want to speak at TechEd and do our site server sessions? Oh, by the way, we have no content. You have to just develop your own content and demos. Of course, Dev Days, they give us a lot of help.
Right.
So, I said, of course I said, because my boss at the time said, oh, God, you absolutely have to do this. So I did that, and I built some demos, and the name of the session was Gotchas, Tips, and Tricks. I don't even remember. I just remember that. The Gotchas, Tips, and Tricks to a successful site server project, or something like that. Right? And it was just information you couldn't get anywhere. It was someone who had lived with the product for 2 years, done numerous installations, and I just knew the code base. I knew everything about it. I know every amusing anecdote about it. I knew how many lines were in site server, 65 million. More than NT.
Wow.
No, actually, NT was 65 million. Site server was like 45 million.
Jeez.
Lines of code. Can you imagine
Ouch.
maintaining that application? Yeah, I'm not supposed to say things like that, by the way. So
Too late.
I went and I did this, I went to TechEd, and at the time they made you do back-to-back sessions. So I did this session in a room with, like 5,000 people. And I was just too nervous to be nervous, you know what I mean? I couldn't even see faces. And I didn't find out till like 6 months later, but it was the highest score at TechEd. The highest rated session.
Wow.
The entire event.
Wow. That's terrific.
Oh, it was kind of funny. So then I said, I like this, and maybe I'm a little good at it.
Hey.
So the TechEd people really have their act together. Denise Smith and Craig Jarvis are just, on the content side, they are so together. Case in point, they've been fighting for RDs and third-party people to speak at their event forever, and it wasn't really until this year that they gave the opportunity. And guess what happened?
That's probably Eileen's
A number of
doing.
these guys have the highest, and gals have the highest scores at the event.
Yep,
and that's all
right.
Denise Smith and Craig Jarvis. Trust me, they've been driving this thing. So there's some, they keep allowing me to go back and do the events, and I get to do a few international ones, and it's just fun. I mean, I honestly love this part of the job. I just love seeing the headlights, or the idea light go on.
Yeah.
And people getting it.
Me too. It's what I live for. Are you going to be doing TechEd this summer?
Yeah, of course. I've been trying to do the Australia event forever.
Right.
And every year, those guys just run out of budget for the third-party people, and they lead me on and disappoint me. Well, this is the year. I'm finally going to Australia, and I'm doing 3 sessions there. One is that Smart Clients, the next generation of application development, which will be fun, and I'm doing a Jupyter session. Jupyter would be the next version of BizTalk.
Yeah, that sounds very, very interesting. That's sort of a conglomeration of products, isn't it? Jupiter.
That product team has their act together. Let me just leave it at that. It's still in an ultra secret status, but
we're going to have to talk about that after the show.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no kidding.
On the BizTalk side, they've already shipped bits. They did a hands-on lab at TechEd. That team has their act together.
Sweet.
On the BizTalk side, that product is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to TechEd, but I've heard a lot of folks talk about BizTalk 2004. I guess it's going to be.
Yeah, the trick, of course, is that their mission is not an easy one. Tying that whole thing together. Because let's face it, WebSphere is not an integrated product. It's very complex and poorly documented.
Right. So if they can nail it, they've got it.
Right. Yeah. They kill the world. If they can pull it off, they kill the world with that product.
Yeah.
Well, I drank the Kool-Aid on BizTalk a long time ago and got excited about it.
Yeah.
And couldn't wait to start teaching it.
I don't even know how to use it all that well, and I can convince people to use it just because I've seen what it can do, and I can put two and two together and spell productivity. Yeah,
business to business, and often overlooked is enterprise integration with it.
Integration and messaging, Mark. I mean, the type of stuff we do, you get to a certain level of engineering, and you end up spending all your cycles in integration and messaging. And that's exactly where that product fits.
Well, I'm definitely going to dive into Jupiter head first. And I'm not an expert yet.
To get you that hands-on lab, it's awesome.
I'm not an expert,
but the image that goes with it.
I will be an expert in that.
Oh, you'll have a blast, too. Totally cool technology. And then what were we talking about? Oh, I'm also doing the Malaysia event. I always do, well, it's not always. But I do the Malaysia event
SARS. Excuse me.
I do the Malaysia event every year.
I had something stuck in my throat.
SARS. That's
right. I'm sick of this SARS hysteria.
I know, it's pretty.
And it's not in that part of the world.
Right.
And they moved a huge Microsoft event because of SARS.
I know. Well, it wasn't because of SARS. It was because people were not going to go.
Right. Well, essentially because the hysteria on SARS.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, if SARS is still a problem in October or whenever that event is, the fusion event that's been renamed, then you better believe it's going to be in New Orleans or wherever they moved it to.
Right.
So in event, I love the Microsoft Malaysia folks. The Malaysian audiences are awesome, fantastic, and energetic. They love technology.
And by the way, we at .NET Rocks love Malaysia and its people. Thank you very much.
If you guys want to speak at this event, I can make that happen.
That'd be kind of fun. I actually know some people who do business in Malaysia and think it's a great untapped potential market.
I'm an absolute media whore. Let me talk at anything. I'll do it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, we need to talk after this because the Malaysia folks make it really easy for third-party people like us to come over.
Well, we will talk.
And, Kuala Lumpur is like the Jetsons in a 5-mile radius.
Yeah,
it has the largest building in the world. It has this monorail that's space age. Around it is third world, of course, and jungle. Boy, do I have great Malaysia stories.
Cool.
Different time.
Let's hear one.
We're going to have you on again, Tim. That's all there is to it.
Let's hear a short one.
Okay. After the TechEd event, and it's a very large event in Malaysia, the Microsoft people, work so hard that they take a little vacation after the event, and I was honored that they invited me to go on vacation with them and their families. So I took a $27 flight to the other side of the island from Kuala Lumpur on the South China Sea side, right?
Wow.
You have to kind of picture geography here and go back to high school.
So it's a little puddle jumper plane then.
Well, I think it was an MD-80.
Really?
In any event, it's cheap. It was $27 round trip. I get off the airplane, and Ramesh, who owns the TechEd content, his dad picks us up at the airport. We make a left turn out of the airport, and he suddenly stops so that an 8-foot monitor lizard can cross the street.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
That's when I knew, oh, wow. I'm on the other side of the world.
You're in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I'm a runner, and I took a 10-mile run, 5 up and 5 back, on a beach, white sand, did not see a soul, had to hop around shells that are so big they were in my way, that had just washed up on the beach.
Jeez.
I could hear the monkeys in the jungle on one side, and on the other side I'm looking at the South China Sea where, in kind of a somber note, during the Vietnam War, people were just getting on like pallets and small boats and just floating, and that's where they landed, just to get the hell out of there.
Wow.
Right.
I mean, it really puts stuff in perspective. I went to states where women have no rights. They're not allowed to go into public places like restaurants.
Wow.
Where alcohol is illegal. Can you imagine I went to a place where alcohol was illegal?
How did you survive?
What did you do?
Well, I ended up drinking beer anyways. But,
okay.
Rules
great
are so
risk.
restricting.
At
Don't
great
you find
personal
rules
risk.
so restricting?
Yes, especially that no drinking thing.
I could go on about Malaysia. I just love the event.
Well,
And
Tim,
Microsoft has just a fantastic office there.
anything else that you want to tell our listeners before we depart?
Well, other than thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get to do this show, but I wanted to let some other people, honestly, and you've had some great people on the show, and I'm a religious listener, and I'm convinced you guys are going to be on TV. When you make it to TV, the J-Lo of technology will be there.
I'm probably going to have to drop 100 pounds first before they let me on TV.
We have bodies built for radio.
I guess me too now.
Hey, guess what? I just got an email here from Michael Stewart. I asked him for an update on the deliverables of the new Blue Bricks. He says they're doing go, no-go formality tomorrow, and the blocks will be on MSDN on or before June 30th.
Ah, some late-breaking news.
Very cool, huh?
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So they have there's 3 new got.net sites right now. Pre-release code is on them, but it's near final, and we've got URLs for them. So you can actually check out the UIP and the application downloader and all that stuff.
That PAG group really is producing lately.
Yeah.
Hot stuff.
I mean, they were formed a few years back, but it wasn't until just recently that, man, they're delivering a lot of stuff.
Excellent. Well, Tim, thank you for finally coming on the show. What can I say? It's been great. I always love hearing your stories, and I'm sure the listeners do too. So come back and see us again.
It was my pleasure, guys. We will talk very, very soon. In fact, you'll probably call me back as soon as we hang up, and I'll get you hooked up and all the stuff I promised to.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, buddies.
All right, we'll talk later.
Take care.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Life is hard.